Party, am I invited?
Yes. Yes, you're definitely invited. I invite you to all my parties. You just haven't seemed to show up.
No, well, is it on the East Coast?
Yes.
Well, that's why. Why don't you have one here on the West Coast? Because I work all the time.
Okay, well, maybe I have one at your house.
Where's that?
Now, were you surprised by the allegations about P. Diddy? Did that surprise you about P. Diddy? He's been on your show many times. Have you been
No personal beef with Diddy, but it's got to go down. The bits are there. I'm a gold miner. I just found some gold.
Joe Rogan just reignited a conversation people have been quietly avoiding. This time, he pointed straight at the silence surrounding EllenDeGeneres. As the Diddy situation continues to dominate headlines and timelines, one question keeps resurfacing. Why do certain names keep getting ignored? Ellen's name has repeatedly come up in these discussions, yet many act like they don't notice. When federal charges against Diddy became public, the internet did what it always does. It went digging. Old clips, old interviews, old jokes that once seemed harmless suddenly felt different when viewed through a new lens. That's where Ellen entered the picture. Viewers began resurfacing moments from her show, showing her and Diddy appearing unusually comfortable laughing, joking, casually leaning into party talk that, at the time, was treated as nothing more than entertainment.
All right, we're back with Sean Diddy Helms. Is it Diddy today? Because sometimes you're Puffy and sometimes you're Diddy. Or sometimes you're Daddy. What are you today?
I'm so confused today with it, as long as you say it in a nice way.
But now that the tone has shifted, those old jokes aren't being brushed off anymore. They're being replayed with new meaning, like there was more behind them all along. And this is where Joe Rogan's take really turned heads. According to him, there's a reason Ellen isn't being questioned the way others are. Despite having Diddy on her show multiple times, the party talk wasn't brief or accidental. It was casual on camera and played for laughs. Today, viewers are revisiting those moments and reading them as pieces of a much larger, unfinished story.
A new thing? Are you going to try to be early?
Yes, I'm trying to be early.
Are you going to be early for my party?
Yes, I am. No.
No.
You don't have to arrive fashionably late.
All right. Not too late, though.
Not too late?
Not too late, please.
What time would you like me there?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But not too late, because, once you get there, the party really starts.
Yeah.
You know?
When you really stop and think about it, the silence feels loud, and it leaves one big question hanging in the air. Is this just bad timing, or is it a topic nobody wants to touch? Things get even stranger when you remember how Ellen's show ended after the toxic workplace scandal. That wasn't a small news story. It completely changed how people saw her. Not long after, Ellen and Portia moved to the UK, with Ellen publicly linking the move to the political climate. But many viewers didn't see it as a simple lifestyle choice. To them, the timing felt like a message. Coincidence? Maybe, but audiences rarely settle for maybe, which is why people keep digging up old details and asking what really happened behind the scenes. And that's why Ellen matters in this conversation. When BuzzFeed News released its report about her show, her Be Kind image collapsed almost overnight. Former staff spoke about intimidation, racism claims, toxic leadership, and a workplace where speaking up felt risky. What shocked people most was a contrast. Kindness was a brand, but pressure was a reality. The backlash grew so strong that several top producers were fired, and Ellen addressed it publicly. Still, the argument never ended was a problem just the producers or the entire culture of the show. Ellen said she wasn't aware of everything going on, and that's where opinions split. Some believed her, others didn't. Either way, the damage to her reputation was real.
You may have heard this summer there were allegations of a toxic work environment at our show, and then there was an investigation. I learned that things happened here that never should have happened. I take that very seriously, and I want to say I am so sorry to the people who were affected.
The show ran a little longer before finally ending, with Ellen saying it just didn't feel challenging anymore. But many people saw it another way, that the trust was broken and never fully returned. And that brings us to what Joe Rogan actually said about Ellen during the Diddy conversation on his podcast. Rogan pointed out how strange it was that, for years, so many celebrities casually joked about Diddy's parties, almost like it was something to brag about.
Because Diddy just kept people at his houses because he's got multiple houses and he's just had freak out parties. Look at him. Look at Saucy sat down and go, Saucy.
Yeah, no, Saucy's crazy. Have you seen Saucy?
He brought up people like Ashton Kutcher and others who used to talk about those parties as if it were a badge of honor. Then he highlighted something obvious. One of the main places those party stories were shared on camera was Ellen's show. Rogan's point was simple, but heavy how did so many famous people circle those parties for years, joke about them publicly, laugh it off, and later say they saw nothing. when today's allegation suggests something very different. This hit hard because the party talk was never subtle. There's one moment from a 2018 interview that people keep replaying. Diddy tells Ellen he invites her to his parties, and that she never comes. Then he adds that the parties start early, but the real party begins later, around midnight, on the top floors. Ellen reacts in a way that makes it seem like she understands exactly what he means. That's the moment people just can't let go of.
Now, what time would your party start, let's say?
Like 9:30.
Really? That early?
Yeah.
I could make that.
Yeah.
But I could think of you of starting a party at like midnight. Like, what time will it go till?
That's a different type of party, though.
Uh-huh.
No, it'll go from like 9:30 to like maybe 3 o'clock, 2, 3 o'clock. And then, we have the top 2 floors of the hotel.
And then it will carry on there.
Yeah. Then the after party.
So here's why this matters, and why Rogan finds it strange that Ellen's name is barely mentioned in the mainstream version of this story. Ellen had Diddy on her show several times, and the party talk became a running joke. Once that connection was pointed out, people started digging up even older clips too, like a 2002 moment on Conan O'Brien, where Diddy jokes about needing locks on the doors at his parties. At the time, it sounded like edgy humor, but watching it back now, it doesn't feel like a joke anymore. It feels like foreshadowing, whether that's fair or not.
So if you don't have what they need, they're gonna leave.
Right.
Gotta keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Hey, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but
Yeah.
Once those clips started making the rounds again, the question shifted to this. What did Ellen know, if anything, and why hasn't she said a single word? People even dug up an old 2016 tweet where Ellen joked and gave Diddy the nickname Cuddle McNuggle Stuff. On top of that, clips began circulating where she's approached with questions and chooses not to engage. Some viewers read her body language as uneasy, while others argue that's exactly how anyone would look when caught off guard. Either way, it only added more fuel to the conversation.
I feel like you may not do that. You're neat, though, right? I would imagine your closet is color coordinated. Everything is hung in a certain,
Yes.
right? So you're neat. It's just that you're not the person that puts it back. All right.
Rogan's point is straightforward. If you were close enough to invite him on your show multiple times, joke about the party culture on national TV, and react like you understood the implications, then people are naturally going to expect you to speak up once the conversation becomes serious.
Party, but there's a camera that swings around and they go, hey, yo, oh, Odell Beckham. And you see Justin Bieber's head come up from his quad and he looks in the camera and he's very confused. It's a really disturbing video.
At that time, Puff was the biggest guy in the world. You couldn't even get in his parties. And he was throwing a party. He said, yo, Playboy, this party's $1.5 million. I said, for what? I mean, what do you say that? It costs $1.5 million to throw this party. I said, Puff, I love it. The party's amazing. Yes, the mayor is here and everything. I said, but that's too much money. I said, you come to my place in LA, I'll throw you a party for $400. That will rival this party. And he got a little mad. He was like, yo, no, I'm known for this shit. Don't.
And it's that silence from Ellen and several other well-known names that Rogan finds suspicious, at least from a public perception point of view. But there's another layer that makes this even more complicated. Remember the workplace scandal. Former staff describe an environment where people felt afraid to speak up. Many commenters now compare that dynamic fear, power, and silence to how they imagine other celebrity circles work when someone holds real influence. That doesn't accuse Ellen of anything criminal, but it does help explain why people keep drawing these parallels and why the conversation won't fade. Stories get recycled in that same context, like a former crew member describing the tense Ellen stare, or claims that certain guests were quietly kept off the show due to personal issues. Whether every detail is true or not, the pattern people argue about stays the same: control, pressure, and silence. And once the public starts seeing a pattern, they don't just watch old clips, they reinterpret them. One moment in particular gets pointed to as the sharpest contrast, because it shows how strong someone's public stance can sound right before their own image takes a hit. Back in 2009, after Chris Brown was accused of hitting Rihanna, Ellen confronted Diddy on her show about why Chris Brown was allowed to stay at his house. She spoke firmly against domestic violence, saying she didn't want any girl to think it was okay to go back to a man who had hit her.
Leads me to the perfect thing, because I would like you to clear something up. There's
Yes.
a lot of talk going on with Chris Brown being at your place in Miami, and you arranging Chris and Rihanna getting back together.
And it's my house. And I'm allowed to give my house whoever I want to give my house to.
Sure.
That's number one. Number two is that I'm the type of person that I don't cast a stone or cast a judgment on anybody. And so if a friend or friends ask me for a favor, then I'm going to be there for a favor.
Later, when workplace allegations about Ellen's own show came out, former staff described toxic behavior and a culture that felt abusive to them. That's why many people call it hypocrisy, not because it proves a crime, but because the contrast is hard to ignore. One moment it's about protecting women, and the next moment her own set is described as chaotic behind the scenes. Now zoom out. There were also reports that Ellen and Portia sold their Montecito home and moved to rural England, publicly linking the move to the political climate. But many viewers connected the timing to the Diddy conversation because as his legal troubles gained attention, people were watching which celebrities spoke up and which stayed silent. This is where things got darker because the public didn't just watch, they started inventing. Rumors spread that Ellen had an arrest warrant tied to her former DJ, Steven Twitch Boss, who passed away in late 2022, and that some recording was played in court. Fact checkers quickly confirmed that claim was false. What stood out, though, was how fast it spread. People weren't asking, is this true? They were asking, does this fit the storyline? With Ellen's reputation already damaged, her name became a magnet for shocking claims, especially when tied to a larger Hollywood darkness narrative. That's the danger in moments like this. Rumors move faster than facts, but the distrust is real, and that's why these stories don't disappear. Even in her Netflix special for your approval, Ellen joked about being pushed out of show business, openly admitting that the Be Kind image turning against her became her new identity.
All right, well, let me catch up on what's been going on with me since you saw me last. I decided to take up gardening. I got chickens. Let me see what else I can tell you about that. It's been going on. Oh, yeah, I got kicked out of show.
But what many people latched onto wasn't even the joke itself, it was the tone. The way she spoke about ego exposure, and how the hate always sounds louder than the love. She said there are extremes in this industry, that people either idolize you or hate you, and somehow the hate makes more noise. A lot of listeners didn't hear that as accountability. They heard it as deflection, like someone still dealing with the fallout rather than fully owning it. Then there was another viral moment that showed just how far things have gone. Aaron Rodgers went on JoeRogan's podcast and tried to compare Ellen's old talk show set to Epstein Island because of similar architecture. Rogan shut that down quickly, saying it looked like a normal building in LA and was likely just coincidence. Still, the fact that it even came up says a lot about where Ellen's reputation sits right now. People are trying to place her on the same conspiracy map as some of the darkest names in modern history, not because it's proven, but because the internet loves a storyline that feels dramatic and cinematic. So what are people actually saying about all this? Let's look at the reactions and focus on the pattern, not just the insults.
The temple, and then look at the... Let me see Ellen's background. What? Oh, similar. That looks like a building, though. Like
Yeah,
a...
sure.
Yeah. Is that a building in LA? That might be a building in LA.
One person claimed Ellen knew everything and is now living quietly in England while Diddy is tied up in a federal case. Others said Rogan is the only one saying what many people are already thinking, asking why some names get dragged nonstop, while others seem to get a softer edit. Then there are the body language clips of Ellen avoiding questions, with people calling it guilty looking. Again, that's not proof, it's perception. But perception is what fuels these comment wars. When you look at the replies, the same pattern keeps showing up: toxic workplace headlines, an apology many didn't accept, a move overseas that feels like a signal to viewers, and the Diddy conversation growing louder, all stitched into one story. That's the engine behind this whole discussion. Many people feel Ellen never really paid a price, so they search for a bigger explanation. Which brings us back to the original question: why does it feel like no one wants to talk about Ellen in this conversation? The answer many land on is simple: she's treated differently. Not legally, not officially, but because she's still EllenDeGeneres, with connections, money, influence, and the power to shape a narrative even after leaving TV. What's changing is that people like JoeRogan don't follow the same social rules. They say the quiet part out loud, not as a verdict, but as a question. And once a massive platform treats something as a fair question, The audience runs with it. The real controversy isn't that Ellen is worse than Diddy. That's a reckless leap. The real issue is why some names get interrogated endlessly while others are handled more carefully. Even when the clips exist, the quotes exist, and the optics look messy. That's why this keeps resurfacing. The Diddy situation triggered a rewind. Old interviews get replayed, old jokes get reinterpreted, and suddenly people aren't just watching entertainment, they're watching for patterns. So what's next for Ellen? Most likely, a quiet life, unless real, verifiable evidence ever ties her to something illegal, not vibes, not theories, not body language. She'll probably be remembered more for the toxic workplace era and her colder reputation than anything linked to Diddy. As for Diddy, the legal fight doesn't just vanish. There are filings, appeals, civil cases, and a non-stop echo that keeps pulling more names into conversation, whether they belong there or not. So what do you think? Did Ellen know more than she ever admitted? Or is this just the internet doing what it always does, turning old clips into a storyline? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns of celebrity drama that mainstream coverage avoids, check out the other videos on the channel.